What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to our real estate and construction channel down here in the beautiful state of Texas. And today we have a guest from Houston, Texas, right here in our backyard. We have Dylan. How you doing today, Dylan?
I'm good. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm great. I'm great. Glad we could connect here. And I know you're doing a lot of big things, here in the city of Houston. And glad to sit down with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be on the show. I appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, absolutely, Dylan. So for those of us who aren't too familiar with you, when do you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, so my name is Dylan. I am a real estate agent and investor in the Houston area. I've been into investing for a few years now, and I have been a real estate agent now for almost 2 years, I guess a year and a half. Really ramped it up in about the last year. So it's still fairly new, but it's really recently starting to really grow and take off with the whole business.
Okay, awesome. And I'm curious about your background as well. Growing up, did you always see yourself in real estate, or what speaks to you about real estate?
No, so I had no background in entrepreneurship or real estate or anything like that. I'm actually from New York, and I originally went to school for poli sci. So I was into kind of like the government, like different. I wanted to do like international politics, and that was my background. And then actually I was in the Peace Corps, so I was actually volunteering in Zambia in Central Africa. Met my wife there, and she's actually the one who got me into personal finance in general. So she was really big into like investing in like the stock market and kind of like the financial independence, like saving money and investing. And that kind of turned my mindset around. At the time, I was not really focused on that, and then she kind of showed me the importance of like why it's important to save money. And she showed me that by saying like, if you save money, here's all like actually the cool things you can do if you invest. Kind of all about passive income and things like that. And she was from Houston, so that is how I actually got down here. I've lived in Houston for about 4 years now, since coming back from Zambia. And then yeah, when I moved here, originally I was working as a middle school teacher. I did that for 2 years and really started getting into investing, started going to a lot of investing meetups, got really into the real estate investing space. And then since that was what I was like kind of focusing all my time on, I was like, okay, let me just try to make this into a career. And that's when I transitioned and got my real estate agent license. And then I've been doing that full time since then.
That's awesome, man. And I think that husband-wife, duo, I think that's so cool. It's always nice to have a nudge in the right direction from someone, right?
Uh-huh, yeah, and I think she kind of created a monster because she got me into it, and then I really, kind of took it and ran with it.
That's so cool. I love it. It's great that y'all are definitely on the same page there. And I'm sure to an extent, it's maybe not easier, but it's always nice to have someone that's, kind of on the same page with you in that regard and says, hey, the importance of, finances and things like that.
Uh-huh, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely, Dylan. So I'm curious as well, I guess, really, it's been, neat to talk to you a bit about, kind of your processes, in the real estate business. So, on the realtor side, could you talk about, maybe some processes you have for running your real estate business?
Yeah, so for me, the most important things is focusing on the lead generation part of the business, and then especially with that follow up and doing that consistently. So when I first started, I was getting really focused on how to actually like be a realtor, which is very important, but I was kind of neglecting the lead generation side and the follow up side. So I was getting good at knowing what to do once I got a client, but at the beginning I was struggling with finding clients. Like, how do I actually meet people who want to buy or sell real estate, or how do I meet with a lot of investors? And then that's the part that in the last year I've really started to improve upon, and that's really kind of jump started my business from there.
Yeah, and it's funny too. It can, I guess that there's always, room for improvement with your processes and really, honing your craft. Some people, they have a lot of people who are interested in real estate. Maybe they don't fully understand the process, whereas
Hmm.
maybe it's the opposite. Someone fully understands the process, but they're having a hard time kind of finding, people who are interested. So it can cut both.
Yeah, it's kind of that trade off.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked a bit about consistency as well. And I'm curious about, maybe scheduling, right? Especially, everything is moving so fast. Maybe you have shorter attention spans with social media or whatever it is. how are you able to
Mhm.
keep yourself organized with your real estate business?
Yeah, so the big thing for me recently has been just making sure everything is on the calendar and it has a specific time slot. So when I actually start my day, I can look and like, okay, at 10 o'clock, here's when I'm you making maybe it's lead generation phone calls from 10 to 11. And I try my hardest not to move that. And if say something does come up that's extremely important, maybe it's with a client that is having, some sort of emergency and I need to take care of that for that hour, then I just make sure that I move that time slot later in the day and to make sure it's still.
So you were talking a bit about, scheduling and having, time blocks, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the important thing is like if I have something on my calendar, I really try my best to make sure that gets done that day. And if I have to move it, then say I have an hour of lead generation time. If I really can't get to it today, like say I'm not feeling well, I'll just try to move it to the next day and just do double that day. And I realized my big thing, and this was probably one of my biggest learning lessons of the last year is just that when I would get really busy, I would, start to get tired and burnt out and a little bit stressed. And then I would like slow down on my lead generation and, say I had a couple closings, everything went well. I'm like, okay, let me give myself some break time, a little bit of vacation. And then, that would come around, say I didn't do a lot of work for a week or two, things would start to slow down in my business. Then I would panic, work really hard, things would pick up, I would get stressed again, busy, and kind of it was like a roller coaster. So now I've really been focusing on just trying to make sure it's like consistent and sustainable the amount of work I can do each day, and kind of do it like that.
Yeah, and we're talking at such an interesting time because we're approaching the holidays, right? You kind of have this stop and start thing going on. You have,
Mm-hmm.
people are rushing before Thanksgiving, and then you have Thanksgiving, and then they're rushing before Christmas, and then you have Christmas, and then the New Year. So it's what you just said is very applicable for the new season we're approaching going into
Mm-hmm.
2023.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the key is that even if I'm been really busy and I'm tired, just having a few things on the calendar and not trying to like overload it with too much where I just get frustrated and like I don't want to do anything. Like if I just have one or two key things, like if I have an hour of lead generation and maybe an hour of something else, if I just do those two things in the morning, then I can at least feel good about my day. I'm like, okay, at least I got the most important things out of the way. Then if I'm busy or tired, then it's not as big of a deal, but at least I got the important stuff done.
Yeah, absolutely. And that can be another thing too, really, maybe, you're at the beginning of the month or beginning of the year and you're kind of chomping at the bit and you want to book out as many, meetings as possible and then you get overloaded and then you kind of have to
Mm-hmm.
reset. So it can be tough for people to organize themselves.
Yeah, and I think that comes with with experience, right? Where you see like, oh, here's how much I actually can handle, and it all sounds good at the time that you said yes to different things, and then you actually get to it, and you realize, from last time, you're like, oh, when I did that much, I was not as productive as I wanted to be, and you learn from that, and you kind of realize how much what is a good balance for you because it's all personal at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because there's so much conflicting advice out there. You have guys who are telling you to, burn the candle at both ends and really just go as hard as you can and carry that load. And then others will tell you, hey, you want that work-life balance. But at the same time, it's almost like you won't really know how to balance unless you've tried to carry a huge load, right?
Uh-huh. Exactly. Yeah. Which I guess is looking back is what I did was like I'm gonna try to see how much I can do in a row. And then you realize your limits and then I also realize, hey, it's not really sustainable for my business the way at least the way it works right now to take 2 weeks off. It's better if I can do even a couple hours a day, 5, 6, even 7 days a week, just even, every day, 1 hour is a lot better than me working really long all day till really late at night for a bunch like 5 days in a row and then taking a week off. That is I learned far worse for the sustainability and the consistency because it just breaks all your habits and behaviors.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's such great insight there as well. And I'm curious, it's cool that, you were able to, you obviously, served in the Peace Corps, really giving back, teaching. And it's cool to kind of see how you're in the real estate business, but you still have that that teaching mentality. I guess I can tell that you enjoy teaching as well. Could you talk a bit about maybe how you can help people, or your clients with financial independence and kind of teaching in that aspect?
Yeah, a lot of my a lot of my clients are either some first-time homebuyers and then a lot of first-time investors who are just learning. Maybe they started listening to Bigger Pockets or getting into some sort of real estate investing, and they really are excited about it, but don't really have as much direction. Since I'm still fairly new with investing myself, I kind of remember like when I first started getting into it a couple of years ago, and I didn't really know that much and how overwhelming it was. So I really like to help my clients, guide them, figure out what the best investing would be for them to start, so they're not overwhelmed. Maybe they don't take on too much, but just something to get some practice, whether that's like house hacking, or maybe that's not going to work for them. And then maybe we just try a 20% down conventional rental. Maybe they want to try a big project, and I can kind of help them, figure out the pros and cons. So I like teaching and helping people in that regard with real estate.
Absolutely. And, in terms of, people you're working with, do you mostly stick to the Houston area? Are you across Texas as well, or?
Yeah, so for me, I stick to mostly inside the loop, and I'm on the west side of Houston, so I'll do like inside 610 loop, right kind of in the heart of Houston, and then on the west side and the south side. And then because when I first was starting a little while back, I would try to go all over Houston, the greater Houston area, but as you know, Houston is very spread out, and the traffic can take a long time. So that would really kind of eat into my day. Kind of after driving in traffic for an hour and a half, I'd just be very tired, maybe frustrated. So I started, making networking with other agents and making connections. And if I have someone who's maybe in a deeper suburb of Houston or like in a different city like Austin or Dallas that I know, I can refer them out to another agent, and then they can even give me a referral fee for sending them their way. So it still works for me, gives me some incentive, gives me some money, but also like it helps that client out and helps another agent out, and it's kind of like a nice thing where it can work out for everybody. It saves me some time and stress as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Dylan. And it's interesting as well. I heard something last year that really stuck with me, and they said the future is local, right? So maybe you're
Mm,
coming from out of state, you're looking to invest in Houston, or maybe you're a native Houstonian and you want to really, kind of hone in on the Houston market. It really pays off to kind of have that local expertise.
I think so, because yeah, I've tried before to go out of my comfort zone and go a little farther away, that I wasn't as much of an expert. And it's possible, but it's just such a learning curve, and then you kind of start feeling like maybe you're not doing justice to your client and you're not helping them as best as you could. So I think it's best to, if you don't know enough, just to like refer them to someone else, and make sure that the client's happy, and I think everyone wins that way instead.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing as well, I know maybe the way that we initially connected, I know that you're big on networking, you're big on putting yourself out there and meeting new people as well. Could you talk a
Mhm.
bit about the importance of networking and maybe the group that you have and what y'all do?
Yeah, so a big jumpstart to my real estate agent business, which this wasn't even how I intended this to happen. Really, it just started happening organically. Was I started a real estate investing meetup. And I've been doing this for about a year and a half, kind of coming out of COVID, wanting to meet more people in Houston, and just meet other investors. I started this meetup. It started very small. Like I think the first time only like 3 people came out. It was like a little happy hour at a brewery, and then from there it just started growing. And then I realized like I met a lot of friends there, and then a couple of them ended up were rookie new investors, and I ended up working with them on the agent side. And I started realizing, this is a good way to like one make friends, make connections with other people in the industry, and then also meet some clients along the way. So over time, over the last year and a half, I just started getting more organized with how I set up the meetup, getting organized with, making sure I put it on all over the different social media platforms, being consistent with messaging different people, inviting people, and just making, putting a lot of my time and energy into that as a big part of like my lead generation, and a big effort. And it's paid off. And now the meetup is pretty big. Like we usually have a guest speaker. We usually have like maybe around probably averages about 30 people, but we've had up to almost like 50 before. So yeah, it's grown pretty big. I don't know. Have you been? I don't think you've been out yet to this one.
No, I haven't. And it's one of those things where, when I get the messages from y'all, every time I say, dang, there's always something that pops up and I really want to make it. So I hope to see y'all at the next one.
Yeah, and I have the same thing because I will get invited to other meetups, and occasionally I'll make it out, but then I'm like, oh no, it's tough to try. There's so many different opportunities, so it's understandable. It's pretty tough to make it out to all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious as well, maybe for someone who's looking to network, maybe they already have a network established, they're looking to build a team, or maybe they're just looking to network for the first time. What do you think makes a good meetup? Is it more about having one speaker or having a panel, or how can someone, really get the full benefit of the meetups that y'all have?
I think the best way. So are you saying more for like if you're gonna host a meetup or attend a meetup?
Oh, sorry. If you're gonna attend a meetup.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would come and I would just be. Yeah, I would. That's a good question. I think the best way to do it is kind of to come in like not being nervous if that's possible, or just being open minded about like going up and talking to people. Because I know even though I host a meetup, that was intimidating at the start to host, but now I'm used to it because it's like, oh, my meetup. I already probably, we have a lot of people who return, so I already know a lot of people there. It's not as nerve wracking for me. But like, yeah, when I go to another meetup, sometimes it is nerve wracking. You see some people, they look like they know what they're doing, and then you know, even though I've done a lot with real estate investing, you see some people in maybe some suits, they look older maybe, and they look like they have a lot of experience. It's nerve wracking, but then when you actually get the courage to go up and talk to them, most of the time people are very friendly and willing to help you out and give you some good information and make connections, because that's why they're there at the networking event most of the time you know and if someone doesn't want to talk to you, you just can brush it off and then you go find someone else to talk to. So that's what I recommend.
Absolutely. And that's some great insight there, right? Regardless of whether, you're coming in for the first time, you're looking to build that team, or really you're just looking to network with other people. Is there anything that you haven't said thus far you'd really just like to hit home for our audience?
I would say that if you're looking to make those connections and you're looking to network with, if it's other investors or something, for your business, I would say don't be afraid to start your own meetup, because I did go to different meetups, but like it's also, and this is also tying into what we just talked about. You might like different ones. Some are more formals, some are more laid back. Mine is kind of a mix. Like we'll have a guest speaker, so there's a little bit of formality, but it's also at a brewery. Like people are kind of just like chit chatting, and it's try to be low stress. So and the reason I created that was because I wanted that's kind of how I wanted the vibe to be of the meetup. So if you are going to different meetups, different events, and you're not finding what you're looking for, just try to start your own. And over time, I think people with similar interests will find it, and you'll make a little crew or a little network of your own.
Absolutely, Dylan. And that's some great insight there is that, I've heard both ends of the coin, right? These meetups are too strict, or, this is too relaxed. So it's kind of cool to see how, you kind of have that hybrid. You connect both.
That's what I've been. That's the goal, and it's always, of course, a work in progress. But that's the intention.
Yeah, beautiful, Dylan. Well, we'll definitely have a link to your meetup as well in the show notes so people can attend if they want to, if they're here in the city of Houston. Maybe someone's looking to connect with you. We're here in your backyard in Houston, another part of Texas, another part of the country, or we just want to chat with you. Where can we find you?
Yeah. So I think a good way would be on Instagram, dylanjeldred. I can spell that out. Dylaneldred. Everyone in Houston spells my last name wrong because of the neighborhood. It's spelled a little different. So Dylan Eldred RE. And then I also have, like you said, a Facebook group for the meetup. I'm also pretty active on Bigger Pockets, if y'all know Bigger Pockets. I think your audience would, right? Bigger Pockets
Yes, sir.
fans. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm on Bigger Pockets. I'm pretty active on there. So if you just find Dylan Eldred on Bigger Pockets, you could just shoot me a message. I'm on there all the time. So I think those would be some good ways to find me.
Yeah, very good, Dylan. It's been great getting to know a bit about your background. Coming from New York, the Peace Corps, obviously, having some roots here in Houston, and the services you offer. And it's again, it comes at a great time, talking about that consistency in the scheduling, because if anything, towards the end of the year, going into 2023. It's so important. So, we greatly appreciate you coming on the show today.
Yeah, no problem. And I think it's a good time for all those rookie investors, like with homes sitting on the market a little longer. Maybe this is a slow time for people. It could be a good time to find that deal people have been waiting for potentially.
Absolutely, Dylan. That's definitely the truth there. Again, we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it.
See you.